na people belum misal long Kokopo na East New Britain na Papua New Guinea long election belong president by usatru elect him president all ward members or all people. This la emi question nogat talk out long paper lang ani galo minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister in the government.
Thank you, Speaker. May I also recognize you and you're coming back. Let me also thank the Honourable Member for Kokopo for this very important question as we prepare for local level government election, which is set for next year. I'll make reference to that later. But in terms of question being asked, this question is very fundamental and very important to the nation. I'm quite sure in the interest of the House as well as our people in the breadth and length of our beautiful country, up in the mountains, along the coastlines and on the islands, our people are waiting for this important occasion so they can meaningfully contribute to the elections of their leaders. In terms of the questions being asked, very important question whether or not the elections of presidents is to be done by ward members or would the people vote for their presidents. So far up until now, it has been done by ward members electing their presidents. I think throughout Papua New Guinea that has been the case. Although options have been discussed and given to provincial governments to look at what options of those two to be conducted in the previous years. But I think so far it has been the option of ward members electing their presidents. Now, so far we have experienced throughout the country that this particular option is not really working. It's creating lots of problems for our people. Hence, there is need for us to look at the second option. As you know, first option has also resulted in lots of vote of no confidence, which is allowed for under Section 12 of the Local Level Government Administrative Act of 1997. And this is an ongoing problem created by our own people, and in doing so, they've spent lots of unnecessary time and efforts and resources addressing this issue, and it's going on all over Papua New Guinea. And therefore, this question is important insofar as what best option can we come up with. And I think it's just been raised by our leaders that we need to look at this second option. The second option is that the people vote for their presidents. However, there are negative sides to all options. First option, as I mentioned too, it requires and it allows for our people to exercise their democratic right to pass vote of no confidence if they find that their leaders are abusing their offices, misuse of finance, all the bad things that that are required to remove presidents. And therefore, it allows for options for people to exercise their democratic rights, to decide and choose. In the second option, which allows for people to vote, it's somewhat a difficult option. That option is such that when a person is voted in by people, and it would take the same number of years until next election is done if you are not happy with your president. So we need to look at those options. So which means that you have to wait until next election to vote the person that you don't want to sit in that office. However, we can look at legislative changes to allow for options in which we can look at if we are not happy with, even if we apply the second option. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to our caucus and our government to discuss these issues further. I'll be taking the paper to Cabinet to look at this issue and to come up with the best option. As has always been the case, systems are good. It's always people who corrupt the system. So we can look at the first option. It's a good system. But again, it's just a problem. The second system is also good. But we anticipate that there will be also a problem. But nevertheless, let's look at a second option, a chance. But that's my view. But I like to seek the concurrence of the House as well as the caucus and the Cabinet to come up with the best option. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We have a supplementary. Honorable Governor Vloshevich.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a critical issue that goes to governance in the provinces. And the decision in the last election was actually made by the minister and the executive government at the time. Some of us had objections simply based on the fact that it destabilizes provincial governments when presidents are constantly being changed. Now, whilst I appreciate the argument from the the minister rather, the issue is more than just merely worrying about presidents who may be misusing funds. I mean, there are processes to deal with that. You could make the same arguments and say, well, when people elect a member of parliament, they can't change them for 5 years. They're stuck. There's no matter of vote of no confidence to remove members of parliament. So I think there should be greater thought given by this government, and I'd like a commitment from the good minister, because they must also recognize that there is a second level of government that also requires stability. And on top of that, the good minister and the government must recognize the right of the people to mandate someone to represent them. We cannot take that right away and give it by proxy to ward members who are also open to influence. So I'd like a commitment from the good minister. My supplementary is this: can he give us a commitment to all the provincial governments that a decision will be made, because many provincial governments, the presidents have already asked that they be directly elected, and the people are also interested in directly electing presidents. So can he give us a commitment that that is the decision the government will take? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Governor, for this speaking. I think I've made a point that these two options have been looked at, and one option has been in practice for some time. And obviously, the second option needs to be given an opportunity and see how we can progress. I've already highlighted there are hindsights to every issues that we are raising, every practices we have. It's how people apply government policies and laws that really decide whether the system is working or not. So yes, Honorable Governor, my point is that it has to be a decision of Cabinet or Government Caucus to make that decision. Hopefully, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to seek the concurrence of the Government Caucus of this sitting, if not next week, to at least give indication whether or not to support the first option or to give chance to the second option. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, a series of questions without notice directed to the Prime Minister in the absence of the Treasurer. Mr. Speaker, the late Koyari Tarata, then Governor of the Central Bank of Papua New Guinea in 1994-95, said at the time, when the hard kina was abandoned in favor of the floating exchange rate. He said the kina, and I quote, "The kina is no longer determined by one single currency, but by the weighted average of a basket of currencies." The comments by, it was reported in today's paper when the central bank released their monetary statement. And in that report, which appeared in today's paper, Mr. Speaker, the acting governor, Elizabeth Genia, attended a meeting with the commerce and industry and told them, and I quote, "The value of the kina is set against the US dollar, meaning it's pegged to the US dollar, and its value will move in line with the US dollar." Mr. Speaker, this is a very significant statement of a major policy shift. In 1975 to 1994, we had the hard kina strategy, in which the kina was pegged and tied to the US dollar. After it was floated, we had from then acting Mr. Tarata, the governor of the central bank, making that statement, and we are aware it's a floating exchange rate. Now there is a U-turn in that policy based on what Ms. Genia has now mentioned. And so my question basically is that, to the Prime Minister, to you, is that can the Prime Minister confirm that his government has abandoned the floating exchange rate regime that was in place since 1994 in favor of the hard kina strategy that was adopted between 1975 and 94, and that which was abandoned? Question 2. Can the Prime Minister inform this Honorable House what is the rationale for this shift in the exchange rate policy amidst the chronic shortages in foreign exchange that we have had about, and also the effect of that on our imports, as it was reported also in the same paper by the Asian Development Bank Outlook report? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good to see you back in your house, your chair. I want to appreciate your leadership at this time again. And I want to thank the opposition leader for asking an important question on kina, kina value, kina on the market in terms of its exchange rate values, and whether the government is shifting away from pegged kina against US dollar or kina free floating on the forex market, or kina being given a stable and a stable or pegged outlook. Mr. Speaker, just to quickly summarize in a response, we are approaching it in a hybrid manner. In 2015, for those who need to be refreshed in their mind, 2015 there was an approach by the then government, the O'Neill administration, to peg in some way kina against the US dollar and to stabilize kina from possibly free falling driven by market force. I want to indicate to this House, whilst pegging kina at this level is also good, especially in an import dependent economy, we are looking at it in a cautiously. When we took office in 2019, we had 30 plus key programs that we wanted to embark upon as a government to restore credibility in our economy, to restructure our economy, and to ensure our economy is stabilized and for regrowth. I want to assure this House, through you, Mr. Speaker, that we are not reckless in the economy. We just don't have to look far back. In 2018, our economy was tracking at 0.1% growth. That's 2018, before COVID-19 travesty or pandemic hit our economy and hit the world. Before the Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine travesty that has an imported inflation effect to our economy. At 2018, when we took office, the country was in an unpronounced recession. The opposition leader, as an economist by profession, knows very well when your economy is declining towards a negative growth, and you're hitting almost at a rock bottom when you're at a 0.01% GDP growth, it's an economy in trouble. We were operating at a high, in fact, when they talk about inflation, inflation average at the time was about 7%. Deficit at the time was about 6%, deficit of budget. So we took over an economy that was free-falling towards recession, and we had to arrest the decline. And at the time, we did not want to uplift the pegging of kina against US dollar. That would totally expose us further. Although the counterbalance to uplifting and allowing it to flow on the market value is good in some sense, especially in a small economy that is also dependent on imports coming back in. I beg your pardon, earnings from export coming back in. At the time, our volume of export was almost low in all commodities except our LNG production, exports. Today, 5 years on, almost 5 years on, we're starting to see, and you can look at central bank figures, you look at National Statistics Office figures, and you look at our export earnings from IRC, there's a growth happening in the agricultural sector. There's a growth happening in the non-mining resource sector in terms of our volume of export. So the idea, Mr. Speaker, the idea of possibly unbundling the what was a pegged kina in 2015, the idea of unbundling this and allowing for kina to at least float on its strength of its value on the market is being looked at, but we are threading this very, very cautiously. All expert advice to us from ADB, from World Bank, from our development partners, from even central bank itself and our own treasury points towards removing the pegging and allowing for kina to trade, and with a stage depreciation of kina, so that the import and export driving forces could have a little bit of positive impact. There's a noted increase in export volume in our country. When you have a kina that comes down by 5%, 10%, possibly the earnings from our export will then drive kina back to a place where it's supposed to be on a free market economy. So I want to give assurance to the opposition leader. We're treading this very, very cautiously. We're allowing our numbers to dictate. And central bank and treasury are working in sync to ensure that we don't just open up, but we control the kina floating issue, kina pegging issue with a balance that doesn't harm the restructure of economy we've done in the last 4 years. All indicators looking good at the macro level. We just want to ensure that the macro level indicators cascade into the micro level. Growths are taking place, employment's taking place, forex movements are easy to come in and out. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the hard time clients are facing in terms of getting the US dollar they need, just one indication is that there's a demand increase in US dollar right now in our economy. And we have, although the highest ever forex reserve, today as I speak, 13 billion kina worth of US dollar is sitting in our central bank. That is the highest ever. But because demand for forex has outgrown actual affordability in the trade that takes place every month, every quarter, every 6 months, central bank has been treating it very carefully, despite also increasing now. The volume of money to the market has increased to $100 million cap a month. That is still insufficient, and we're working together with central bank to ensure that all this given a fine outlook, and we don't compromise the regrowth of the economy we're trying to do, as well as maintaining sufficient support to the market and to the economy. So, summarize, kina, the strength of kina has been looked at deeply. We don't want to overly expose to the free market and allow it to float, but at the same time, it is good at the right time, central bank and treasury combining their advices. We will try to see how it could be lifted. My own views, personally speaking, Kina should be really out there on the market on its own value. We also, government, if I could conclude by indicating to this House, we're looking at other major currencies that we want to partner with instead of just trading pegged with or used with US dollar, especially those countries that we have substantial trading partnership with. We're looking into using their currency as a currency of trade. Possibly China would be a currency of trade. At the moment, Chinese money could be a currency of trade. Central Bank has been asked to look into this. We have today with China 11 billion kina trade volume going back and forth with China. That is quite big. With Australia and China, they're two biggest partners with us. And so we're looking at other trading currencies where we could use instead of just pegged against US dollar, so that we bypass the global value of US dollar in the global market. We go straight to the strength of the currency that we can trade with. So this is another option we're looking with as a government, to possibly use other major currencies that PNG is relating with in terms of trade for business and investments. But cut a long story short, Kina should find its place on the market. At the moment, Kina's value, if totally unplugged, unpegged, and free fall, we're treating it diligently so it doesn't free fall below a threshold where it could go into an area where, when you combine with inflation, it could be unsustainable for the economy. We're treating it very, very carefully to ensure that we don't increase inflation, we don't hurt our economy, but at the same time, we manage for earning more from our exports that is currently increasing as we speak. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member of the Middle Fly.
Thank you, Speaker. Lord Luke Saville or Middle Fly. My question is directed again to the hardworking Minister for Intergovernment Relations. I have received some messages and calls from my LLG presidents complaining that the ward councillors have not received the allowance for almost all of this year. I believe that's not only for Western Province or Middle Fly District, but maybe other parts of the provinces in the country as well. My question is, can the good minister advise to this House that the LLG, the ward councillors, have been paid their allowance this year? If not, can he explain why the delay is? Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. And I thank Middle Fly, Honourable Member for Middle Fly, for this very important question. Indeed, it's issue of concern, but the government is working on it, and I've brought the matter to the attention of our hard-working treasurer, and he's taken upon the issue upon himself to addressing this issue. Let me point out that the information or issues raised by Middle Fly is not a bit incorrect. The ward members are paid up to March this year. And April to August is outstanding, which is about 31 million kina. And it is something that I've been working very hard to bring it to the attention of Treasurer. And Treasurer actually has responded about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And thereafter, I kind of checked my offices, and we were kind of, we found that the funds were not released. Meanwhile, I've been getting inquiries from rural communities throughout Papua New Guinea, and more so from leaders from West Sepik, Aitapelumi area. If you what members are listening, thank you. I've been communicating with you, kind of giving you advice and, in a way, false expectation, and I apologize for that, including my good district of Alotau, Milenbeek. They've also been raising the same issue. At least they can access my phone. I'm happy to answer those questions, but sometimes it's embarrassing because I keep on giving the same answer over and over. So in a way, my hands are tied. I can do what I can as a minister responsible for provincial and local level government affairs. But again, I'm dependent upon other agencies of government to ensuring that our ward members are paid their legitimate allowances. Let me again emphasize, ward members play a significant role in affairs of government at the third level government in the rural communities of Papua New Guinea. We should never forget them. It is our responsibilities to ensure that ward members are paid. We need law and order in the rural communities, in the villages. These are the people who are face of the government. They're the ones who go out and negotiate and mitigate. So we should not forget them. It's important that we should continue to address this issue and play our part to ensuring that our government officers, including the third level politicians, are adequately catered for. Similarly, let me also mention that these people are there, they continue to suffer. So I appeal to my colleagues in the government, please, let's try and address this issue once and for all so that our people can be given what is rightfully theirs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, before me allowing one black question more, by me walking a clarification, Lawyer Chair. Parliament and me passing 38 report, because this question keeps on popping up. And on the 38 report, all the pay na allowances for the elected and appointed leaders. One time judiciary and this parliament and passing finish. Now, if only you may implement him the 38 report, which my office has been calling on the PM and your office for provincial affairs or in the government, all officers will come and look him. Now, implement him the 38 report, the officers have not been coming. So, Minister, now, if we have to do this, if it has to be captured, when all councillors and this were captured in the budget, it has to be done in this coming budget. Or usat by UNM. So salimonia all provincial government only manage him all councillors all provinces in the district. So that's for clarity. Parliament has already passed that 38 report and it's law, and we have to implement that law. Thank you. Honorable Governor Blonga Morobe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me the leave to ask a series of questions at this point in time. My question will be directed to the Minister for Civil Aviation and Transport. To thank the Prime Minister, Honorable James Marabe, I raised a question before this Parliament if he could take it up with the Prime Minister of Israel and the government of Israel for them to concur that we establish Papua New Guinea Embassy in Jerusalem, and vice versa later, if they can, establish the embassy in Papua New Guinea. Prime Minister, it has come to pass. You have implemented the questions that I asked you, and you have made that undertaking to make sure the questions that I asked, answers to them should have been implemented. And Prime Minister, I thank you on behalf of the Christian people in this country. Job well done, and we can travel to Israel without any trouble, and we have an embassy there to attend to us. Mr. Speaker, now I direct my question to the Minister for Transport and Civil Aviation. I ask, as a senior member of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Papua New Guinea, we're going to have a biennial synod that is coming in Southern Islands in a place called Yalibu, and the dates between 6th and 14th of January next year, 2024. That is a very big gathering which will attract the delegates all around the country who are the members of the church, and we are also going to have delegates coming from the international community. They're coming from Germany, they're coming from America, the Pacific and Australia, and our church representative in Jerusalem. Mr. Minister, I had just gone to Mendi 1 month ago, and the airport there has been ceased from operation, and that requires a bit of maintenance, and then the plane can land. Mr. Minister, we want to bring our delegates by flight from Mosby direct to Mendi. Yeah. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Minister, could you tell this Parliament that you are in the position to make sure the Mendi is brought back to what it was before it was abandoned or ceased to operate, to allow the planes to land there and to take off from there, carrying passengers to and fro and the cargoes and whatever that needs to be carried. So, Prime Minister, Mr. Can you tell this Parliament that you're going to make sure that the airport is able to ensure the airport is in operation? That's the first question. The second question is, I have also been to New Ireland on the invitation of some people and passed through Tokwa Airport. Is New Britain, without a doubt, is the destiny of for the tourists who come to this country. That is the tourist destination, and all the accommodations, everything there is in order to attract the tourists coming into our country. Could you make sure and ensure that the Tokwa is upgraded to same status as Nassau International Airport, so that passenger can travel from international community and land direct in Tokwa? And could you ask the Japanese government or any other government in the international community whether they can give us a soft loan, as they did in Najab, to upgrade Tokwa Airport to the status of international airport? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation.
Thank you, Speaker. Firstly, we like talk big talk thank you to Ru, Igolong Governor Blomorbe, Honorable Wenge. We like talk thank you to Igolong Deputy Prime Minister, na all get another member Blomorbe, Usati bin staff, na support him. Nedzep Tomodachi International Airport opening lo Monday lo disela week. Support belong all and very encouraging. Na mi one bell lo continue lo work with the provincial government, no se minister responsible. Lo time na look long interest so been presenting lo disela time. Speaker, in relation to the questions, Honorable Governor Butimi Kam, in relation to Mendi Airport, Miplo Olgeta, Ino New Pla Lo Mendi Airport, the situation, Lo Mendi Airport, me just like update Lig, Lo Mipla Lo here, Mendi Terminal is under construction right now as we speak. Construction is expected to end at the end of this year, provided there's no more disturbance, provided that there's no more interference by the public. That seems to slow down the development pace. Na i-walk him legally challenging blo yumi lo trying to meet him is a deadline blo disala yar. But we will endeavor to try and stay on target. So hopefully January's program, the church program that the Honorable Governor was saying, we could try and have it operational by then. But I cannot guarantee that because Minokito citizen around Mendi or Southern Highlands whether there's going to be any further interference along this airport. So it's not a problem too, and maybe funding pinis bunnies around him airport, and the public has taken that fence away. So now we know that bunnies can. So one longer requirements for aerodrome status, you must get bunnies around him airport. You know that bunnies, you know that airport that can be operational. So now all fence no more stop. We play losing big money pinis lo sanabi mol bunnies, but now fence no stop. At this juncture, me like talk thank you to Ro, Igolong Governor Poe. Now all members of Southern Highlands who has seen this issue and have actually come in without the complaint. Only no come want them complain. Na misana plo here na talk thank you lo Governor Poe and them provincial government belong in. We only chip in. He come inside no 4 million kina. Lo try na put him fence. He go back. But me ask him, leaders below Southern Highlands province, we got to do more than that. Me ask him, you please, you mean up controlling all people below you me. You mean up make sure all people below you me respecting government property. Because this like government property, Inoblos is serving me plata solo members of parliament. But the traveling public and most of those publics are our people and our citizens on ground too, you by use him. So tapos you bagarapin, na ben you like kalapkin lo balus, I'm wrong blowsat. So I'm always like I'm something that's all that's causing some delays. But thank you, Governor Poe and your members, Lo Southern Highlands, Lo contribution, Lo this million, and let me reassure the House as well that dialogue is ongoing between NAC and the provincial government and the current situation of the airport at Mendi. Okay, so we're staying on top of it as much as we can to try, with the focus, to have it reopened or operational as soon as possible, provided that all the requirements are met, and no more obstacle or disturbance that prevents us from getting to that desired outcome. In relation to Tokwa, Speaker, Honorable Governor, I've been having nek blomi lo disla time, where me been opim net Tomodachi International Airport, nek blomi, I'm direct and I'm straight, me like him, Japanese government, through lo JICA, lo look seriously can, lo sample additional funding and focus on Tokwa upgrade. And I think that is, without a doubt, Miblo Olgata is on the same page, lo disala, right? That Tokwa needs that attention right now. The current situation, lo Tokwa, doesn't help with the traveling public go in and out. So we're doing our best as NAC, subject to the financial circumstances we're in due to the legacy issues that I've inherited going back some time now. But me hamamas, me got some good news for Tokwa too. And as the discussion with the Japanese government and JICA will proceed as normal to try and get them to attend to this and fund this. The encouraging thing on that note is there's been some feasibility study already done on Tokwa. So those formalities are on foot right now. So once they bring it to the table, we will then look at costing factors involved, and then we can start looking at the loan arrangement with the Japanese government through this particular construction again for Tokwa. But in relation to why Tokwa has been downgraded, or Liglik Balus Ron Long Up, and because 162 meters lo runway lo tokoa I bagarap. I call him in English, it's peeling. Right? So we have to now quickly go in and do a proper job to stop it from peeling any further. All right? And that's 162 meters, the runway, where if you take it away from the total length of the runway, under the aerodrome requirement, a certain length of runway can only have a certain type of aircraft to land. So there was long pla runway, okay, big pla aircraft. Short pla runway, liglig aircraft. Because aircraft you need in time to slow down and make sure that the passenger gets off safely. So mi hama mas lo announce mo se mi pla bin tender pinis. Lo kisi wan pla contractor lo go na upgrading is 162 meters. And make sure that it's ready blow go back lo normal operation can lo big balus lo land. So the tender process has gone through. We're looking at about 12 million kina to fund through NAC to support the contract. I've been told that the company that won the bid is Hebo Construction, and I think they're in the process now of mobilization to go down and to attend to this immediately. We're looking at once mobilization is done and they're on the ground in Tokoa, we envisage a couple of months, 6 weeks to about 8 weeks for it to be done quickly, with the focus once again to try and get all these airports that I've touched on operational before Christmas, okay, as much as we can, all right? So I'm that's all. I'm legally update to them. Thank you, Governor. Question, thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Member Bulolo. We have a supplementary. Sorry, Bino Harem good. You got supplementary. Nipa Kutubu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary is with regards to the Mendi Airport. I do understand that there is a PEC decision to relocate the current Mendi Airport to another location. I want the Minister to explain if that is something. And I also understand that there has been some funding made available for this relocation of the Mendi Airport. I want the Minister to explain if that is something that his department is looking into. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. Lo respond lo good plan member lo question belonging in relation to this. They may have documentation lo side lo PEC, but lo side belong NAC. We haven't received any formal documentation yet in relation to the interest. But let me say this: verbal discussion has happened. Verbal dialogue has happened in relation to interest to relocate Mendi Airport to another location. So I would encourage the members of Southern Highlands to continue having that discussion with NAC, and let's look at how best we could actually relocate that airport if it's feasible and justifiable in terms of funding and the locality of that airport. Thank you.
Honorable Member Bulolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good plan, Luki, lo siya again. Good plan, morning, Lui. Mr. Speaker, question lumi by Golo, Minister of Justice and Attorney General, and for the Mining Minister to take note. Mr. Speaker, the question to the good minister is, when is the magisterial services dealing with the 69 disputes registered outside of the special mining lease area to Wagang Outfall? Parang time ba dispute by me sort him out. Number two, when will the land demarcation be carried out or conducted via a walk around the land boundaries of the Yanta, Babuaf and Hangabu people? And finally, number three, what is the ministry and the department plans on regarding the plans regarding the amendment to the Valuation Act so that the new valuation rates are used to compensate in the mining projects and relocation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Member for Abololo. 69 disputes. Those disputes are with the district courts or national courts. So I, as a minister, cannot interfere when they could complete, but we can only we can do is ask them to fast track these disputes so that the gold deposit or gold development in the area can proceed without delay. Secondly, the question as to Yanda and Babap areas, the land and demarcations, I understand that there's a Supreme Court decision being made as to decide who gets it. It's already been decided. At the same time, I also understand that there are ILGs have been established, which falls under the Lands Department to identify who are the legitimate landowners. So then my department is encouraging people to go into using ILGs to establish the traditional, real traditional landowners. It could be a small in number, whatever it is. God gave it to them that we must all, as a government, we must all respect those people and not allowing the landowners, called landowners, associations gather together in Port Moresby or in Ley, and that claiming that they're landowners, but we must respect the Land Act rights, which they go to ILGs. So that was the understand, and I believe that the solicitor, state solicitor has given them advice, and that will be our position in future in terms of dealing with land. Valuation, we're looking at the new rates, but this will depends on other considerations, discuss with other people, and then come up with the valuations. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, me talk sabi olsem for 5 minutes lo asking me no talk sabi am gam lo harre lo finish. Papers. Chairman, Special Parliamentary Committee on 2022 General Elections.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable members, I present the interim report of the Special Parliamentary Committee on the 2022 General Elections. Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of the Parliament to make a statement in connection with the report.
Leave granted. Leave granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honourable members of Parliament, on behalf of the members of the Special Parliamentary Committee on the 2022 General Elections, it is indeed my honour as the chairman of the committee to present to this House the committee's interim report into the inquiry and findings of the 2022 general elections, as well as the observations from other past national general elections in our country. The special committee on the general elections was established by this Parliament in its September sitting last year, after the country had gone through an extremely turbulent elections in 2022, as we are all aware. This committee began its work around February of this year, so we have managed to complete our report within 12 months, which I believe is perhaps the first time a parliamentary committee is able to present a report well within the first 12 months of operations. I want to go on record thanking the Prime Minister, the Honorable James Marape, without whose undivided support this committee would not have done its work. The unacceptable conduct, disruption and outcomes of the 2022 general election brought many serious issues to the fore, such as the credibility of the key institutions involved, most particularly the PNG Electoral Commission's role in conducting elections, and in turn affecting the credibility and legitimacy of the election of the members of this Parliament and the credibility and the functionality of our system of governance. All these have resulted in the loss of confidence by our people in our electoral process and, of course, in our governance system. This has serious consequences for the credibility of democracy, governance and leadership in Papua New Guinea, and even for the future or even the survival of the national state and its coherence. Our country is diverse with over 800 different languages and multiple tribes and ethnic groups. Despite this diversity, we have survived as a people during colonial times and as an independent state since 1975, when our founding fathers drafted a constitution to bring our diverse people together to form one nation state, Papua New Guinea. The turbulent experiences of the national general election in 2022 and also the turbulent experiences in previous elections, notably 2017, have raised serious doubts about our country's ability to manage its election process and the wider administration so that we can stand beside other nations in the region of the world as a genuine, functioning democracy. Mr. Speaker, by establishing this committee last year, the Parliament sent a very clear message that this Parliament was not happy with the status quo and that this Parliament wanted to see change and reform in our electoral system to bring back the confidence and the trust of our people. We must reform. Reform is about change. Reform is about the future.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Jack with a news update. A Supreme Court chaired by Judge Teresa Berrigan on Wednesday, October the 4th, sentenced senior lawyer Paul Paraka to 20 years imprisonment for misappropriating 162 million kina belonging to the state. Paraka was convicted under criminal law section 383A1, A2B of the Criminal Code following 5 counts misappropriating property belonging to the state between years 2007 and 2011. Paraka was the principal of the law firm Paul Paraka Lawyers. Judge Berrigan ruled that the sentence was based on the maximum penalty of 10 years imprisonment in this case, based on 5 offenses. Paraka was sentenced to 50 years, but taking into consideration Paraka's medical record and community standing as a senior lawyer, he was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment with light labor. A school holiday program called Bilasim Skin was run for a 3rd time during the Term 3 school holiday for school children in Eastern Highlands Province. The program was initiated by director of the National Performing Arts Troupe at the infamous Round Round Theatre. School children came dressed in their traditional attire and performed for others. 4 groups of students took part: Yasina Park from Upper Bena, participating groups took part in the school holiday program. Yasina Nature Park from Upper Bena, Nupuka Cultural Group, NPAT Kids, and support partners Gai Pazi, Gahukuzuha Cultural Group, and Suai Cultural Group. Bilasim Skin School Holiday Program was sponsored by the National Cultural Commission, Sangda, Hypermart, Instana Trading, and Wainima Coffee Factory.
Representing these services, the development, the breakout establishment of education, the next level of Eastern Highlands. The Education Director is Aremi Long Kam Sunawan Temu Plahia. Na batok sawe na look sawe na accept him this program. Prones to performing arts na troupe.
After the standoff and the payment of 15 million kina, Wednesday by the government team, the landowners of Koyari in Central Province are relieved. Chairman for Sogeri Holdings Limited, Arua Saleh Soge, told this newsroom that the money given to the LOs was distributed this morning. Hogeri and Central Sogeri received 5 million kina each, while Sirinomo Development Corporation and Rona Development Company received 2.5 million kina each. Saleh Soge says they are grateful that the Minister for National Planning, Rainbow Paita, is anticipating a Koyari forum to be held and funded by the government, aimed to eradicate all confusion and create a proper forum for discussions so such as standoffs won't occur like the recent one. In this way, it provides a creative joint for 4 landowner companies, as well as inform government parties on the formalities through the forum. Meantime, water supply into Port Moresby was fully restored by midday yesterday. After a 3-year hiatus, the PWC Corporate Challenge Run for Charity is back on the 15th of October 2023. The 5-kilometer run or walk over the years has inspired community action by bringing together business and community for a good cause. Sticking to focus areas, the aim is to raise funds for local charities and non-profit organizations that work in the space of health, education, women and children. Through the corporate challenge, funds raised go to Port Moresby General Hospital, Guinea Guada Business Development Foundation, We Care and Child Fund. In regional news, Aboriginal children will soon be taken from their parents at rates similar to those of the stolen generation unless change is made, according to a shocking new report. The warning comes from South Australia's Aboriginal Children's Commissioner, who says the alarming figures show a desperate need for major change.
Adnyamatnya grandmother, Auntie Louise Rankin, turns 70 next week, but she doesn't want to celebrate.
I never had my mum and dad around to celebrate my birthday or my brothers or sisters to celebrate birthdays, so I don't like birthdays. It just reminds me of the day I was born and what happened.
Ms Rankin was taken from her parents when she was 5 days old and placed in the care of a non-Aboriginal foster family. Decades later, she's coming to terms with having 3 of her grandchildren in out-of-home care.
I cried and cried and didn't believe that it could happen to me.
South Australia's Aboriginal Children's Commissioner has spent the past 15 months investigating First Nations child removals. In a report handed to the government, she's revealed alarming statistics.
The actual rates of removal are spiralling out of control.
The report reveals that unless something changes, up to 14% of all First Nations children in South Australia will be in state care by 2031, warning if the predicted increase is realised, Aboriginal children will be removed in numbers close to those of the stolen generation.
Things happen much too late, and by then it's too late. We need to get in early.
The problems raised in this report are far from unique to South Australia. Experts say similar issues are being reported right around the country, prompting calls for urgent action.
It is absolutely clear that improvements need to be made. I will be carefully considering the report's recommendations.
Ms Rankin says the solution will come when governments listen to First Nations people.
We need to get help to get to A to B, you know, it's like jumping puddles to get to the big water hole.
A renewed plea for help over a long-running problem.
Westpac has decided to maintain a presence in the South Pacific after the federal government indicated it wants to see Australian companies maintain a role in the region. The bank told the ASX on Wednesday it will retain ownership of Westpac Bank PNG and Westpac Fiji and increase investment in the subsidiaries. This comes to 2 years after a $420 million sale of Westpac's Papua New Guinea bank to Kina Securities was knocked back by the competition regulator in the island nation on the basis it would limit national economic progress. Westpac institutional bank boss Anthony Miller told staff on Wednesday it now sees a commercial opportunity in PNG and Fiji. The switch to online shopping increased during the pandemic, and many have stuck with it as cost of living pressure bite. Digital retailers have all increased market share for groceries at the expense of the big supermarkets as people hunt around for the best deals.
Sarah Woodland started buying her groceries online during COVID lockdowns, and she's never looked back.
I can't remember the last time I actually went into Woolworths.
Instead, she does 90% of her grocery shopping online, like many Australians. A UBS report found the number of people turning to Amazon, Catch of the Day and IGA for their main online grocery shop has increased compared to pre-pandemic, while fewer Australians are shopping at the two major supermarkets. But it's still a growing part of their business.
It used to be only about 1 or 2% of retail sales for supermarkets. It's now closer to 8 to 12%.
Amazon says it's had a 50% year-on-year increase on its subscription program.
You know, it's toilet paper, it's tissues, it's dishwasher tablets, it's beverages.
Cost of living pressures are pushing customers to look for better deals.
We know that Australian families are doing it tough, and accordingly they're shopping around across multiple brands and also multiple channels.
Low-cost supermarket Aldi recently told a parliamentary inquiry it's considering entering the online grocery space. In a statement to the ABC, Aldi clarified it won't be launching any online offering in the near term until it can find a model that doesn't compromise its ability to deliver low prices. Sarah Woodland finds shopping online more efficient and cheaper.
It saves time because I have a list of things that I want. I can get it delivered next day.
Convenience at a touch of a button.
Morobe Rugby Union enters knockouts of season 2023 coming weekend, according to President Lionel Kamiak. President Kamiak said ESS 10th City Lights, NGI Honeybrooks, Harlequins, IROC Pirates and Royals have the upper hand battle in the top 4 Premiership Challenge heading into knockouts with bigger match results expected. Kamiak thanked sponsors who have made it possible coming this far and almost reaching the end of season 2023. He said Morobe has set records whenever it participates outside the province and gave assurance that the investment from government and businesses will not go to waste. He added that there is talent in Morobe and the code is on revival, regaining the support and producing the talents to where it once used to be. That's all for now. Join us at 6 this evening for the main news. Bye.
An accurate reflection of the current public sentiments by our people. Mr. Speaker, this is an interim report. We will present the final report in the November sitting of Parliament. Some may be wondering why we are presenting this now and not wait until November, which is a month away. As alluded earlier, we felt that we had to report back, and secondly, we wanted to have an impact on the 2024 budget process so that funds may be made available to begin work in earnest next year. Mr. Speaker, I must caution this House that any reform program is not going to be easy. Experiences of electoral reform programs in overseas jurisdictions such as in Africa, in the former Soviet states, in the Caribbean and the Americas show that electoral reform programs take an average 15 years to bring about any meaningful reform and change. This problem will not be resolved, and this program will not be completed overnight. This will become a multi-year and even a multi-decade program. If we accept and decide to reform, then we must stay focused, dedicated, and committed. Drawing from overseas electoral reform experiences, we are informed that there are several core pillars which underpin successful electoral reform programs. They are, number one, political will. And I repeat again, this government under this Prime Minister has that political will, and I thank the Prime Minister again. Number two, assured reform program financing. Sometimes we may need to secure that by an act of law. The third important pillar is a strong oversight and supervisory mechanism. The fourth one is a multifaceted reform program, several closely interrelated different reform activities running parallel, at times with different timelines. Strong management leadership at the Electoral Reform Program Office. Number 6, technical capacity. Number 7, time, invariably perhaps a decade or longer. The inclusion, number 8, of CSOs in the total reform process, as the CSOs bring a non-political voice to the table. As a short case study of one electoral reform program, I note that jurisdictions like Singapore, in its 1990 reform to its electoral system, introduced what they called non-constituency members of parliament, NCMPs, into their parliament. These members were not elected and did not represent constituencies or electorates as we know, but were selected by the Speaker of the Parliament based on a parliamentary committee's recommendation. These special MPs were drawn from church, business, sports, civil society, academia, and the arts. And this reform brought into Parliament people with outstanding achievements in life at the national and international stage. They performed all the roles and functions of parliamentarians except to vote for constitutional amendments, voting for budgets and other areas where they were restricted from participating. This seemed unorthodox. This particular reform was a significant departure from the Westminster tradition, which they had inherited from Britain, just like us. The Singaporean reform ensured that highly talented people brought their voices into the chamber, helped to improve the quality of debate on the floor of Parliament, and made significant contributions in the area of good governance. While the reform, its critics, Singaporeans have seen the benefit of that reform and have kept it to this day, and Singapore is flourishing because of such bold initiatives and intelligent reforms. Mr. Speaker, I have shared this short case study to illustrate to this Parliament that reform, if it comes with foresight, innovative thinking, and is intelligently planned, managed, and implemented, can bring great results for a country. The moment is now, and we must capture the moment. This Parliament, my fellow leaders, must be both bold and courageous. My committee has deliberately front-loaded the 11 more important and urgent reforms into this interim report. We hope the House can deliberate on them, consider them, and hopefully endorse them for the urgent reform work which is so necessary to help elevate our nation to the next level. As a preview into what is in the focus areas of the interim report, let me highlight some of these important and urgent reforms proposed by my committee. The first area of focus is to establish a permanent parliamentary committee on electoral matters. We found out that Australia has for the past 40 years had a permanent parliamentary committee on elections. After every general election, this committee is constituted. It looks at the recommendations and it works to improve elections. We have had no such oversight mechanism in the past. reports of elections tend to go to the office of the Prime Minister, and for whatever reasons, they collect dust and they never get implemented. That is the first focus here this committee is looking at. The second one is the strengthening of IDEC as an administrative coordination mechanism to help run elections during that period when it is most critical. The third focus area is to look at increasing the number of commissioners in the PNG Electoral Commission. The reason for that is to bring greater independence to the Commission, to strengthen their role, and to try to build against external influence on a single electoral commissioner. The fourth area of focus is on effective planning and implementation at the PNG EC. The understanding that preparing for general elections is a 4-year process must begin immediately after the preceding election. We cannot leave it into the final year when elections are supposed to take place. The fifth focus area, which is critical, is the electoral roll update. Mr. Speaker, the committee was shocked to discover that in Australia, the common roll is updated once a month. Now, we know it is very difficult for us to achieve that sort of level of competence within a short period of time. The committee is hopeful that we will start updating the electoral roll next year, hence the need to get Treasury on side. So we will try to get an update once every year leading into the 2027 elections. The amazing thing about the Australian system is that the Electoral Commission will send a letter to every member of Parliament once a month telling them who are the new members that have moved in as voters and who has left the electorate. That is the standard to which we must achieve sometime in the future, but for now we think once a year will be a big improvement from sometimes having no update at all. The sixth area is voter identification. Whether through voter ID cards or whether through some electronic system utilizing biometrics, we must ensure that every single voter in Papua New Guinea is uniquely identified so that when it comes time to vote, they have an opportunity to vote without fear, favor, or intimidation. The seventh focus area is on the adequate and timely release of election funding. That needs no further explanation, Mr. Speaker. The fifth area is on election security. On this one, we will follow the recommendations of the Commissioner of the RPNGC. The ninth focus area, Mr. Speaker, is on illegal firearms and ammunition, particularly in some of our more difficult electorates. We are proposing that funds be made immediately available and that some work begins in earnest to tackle this very serious area where illegal firearms and ammunition is used to affect the outcome of an election. The 10th focal area is in the area of legal reform. There are many laws that need to be changed, and we need to work in close consultation with the CLRC to ensure that within the 3-year time frame, if there are going to be constitutional amendments, we get them onto the floor. And finally, the number 11 focus area is on cross-cutting matters, particularly to do with some of the issues we find around the Court of Disputed Returns, the issues around penalties on election rules violation by candidates and supporters, and so on, and those who actually conduct the elections. That's the 11th area. With that, Mr. Speaker, let me just say that the reforming of our election system won't be easy, but we must start immediately if we want to see some changes. Otherwise, 2027 is going to be our worst election on record, and knowing that now we cannot responsibly ignore what is going to be a terrible outcome. We must act now. Therefore, to the members of this Honourable House, I urge you, it is our job to provide reform, and also it is our job to provide the leadership so that our country's future can be better, beginning with those elections. In closing, as chairman of the committee, I now table this interim report of the Special Parliamentary Committee on General Elections for the consideration of this Honourable House, its deliberation, acceptance, and endorsement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of Government Business.
Do debate first. Debate first.
Honorable Governor for Morobe.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the granting of the leave for me to contribute in the debate on this paper. But before I pursue my contribution on the debate, I move that the Parliament take note of this paper presented by Chairman, a Special Parliamentary Committee's Chairman on electoral reforms in this country, the Governor for the CIPIC. And I want to pursue the debate, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, by me debate, huh?
Yeah.
Not local disturbing me or something.
You go ahead and debate. Honorable Governor of Morobe.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for CIPIC. Yes, CIPIC. Is CIPIC, but don't call him only at CIPIC. The Governor Blong M, Honorable the Alan Bird, as the chairman, na Milatok Tangilo Committee, who's had been stab one time mem, long carry out decision, long government, long display country, through of parliament, long marking mem, long one time committee, long look, long local election been come up, long election 2022. Na skelim, kisim ting long old man, na very long display country, Mr. Speaker. Whether this election been come good, beyond him law, or this election, been come up good, beyond him law. All kisim view long all, na all somebody help him all, long look long law, long display country, and be relevant long election, national election, now all alpha election, LG election maybe, long display country. Na only scaling na harem saw long all think lot people, only the look long heavy been come up na harem. Now all now present him first report come on display parliament. Mr. Speaker. Now me talk thank you long all. I got time by we play by look on this report good. Now scaling will talk. This committee, they've been writing come up on this report and presenting on this parliament. Thank you long heavy only look him, long this country, long election. Now some ting, only kisimlo sawe man, now people only talk one time all. Now some ting, only scaling one time, not one time all, lively me long former colonizer of this country, Australia. Now, put them all they come long. You miss Skellim, Mr. Speaker. And the first report, as the chairman and me talk, Mr. Speaker. Now by final report by come, one time already long M, or by presenting come on display parliament. Now we'll talk thank you long chairman. No good by me not stop display boom by place stop long walk on talk long people. Also, no thank you presenting come on display parliament so that we can have him report. Now we can make some contribution long this report now you present him. Me talk thank you Now, me like him, by you take note, long some of the thing by me, give him this parliament, so that by you can put him inside, long, scale him long committee, now put him long committee long paper, long eventually by come with some final report on this parliament. Mr. Speaker, but I can talk in this parliament, Mr. Speaker, also no more be provincial government, only considering him also election 2022, and we broke him law, long rightful citizen inside on this country. Rightful citizen of this country, long sanablo election. Now sanablo election, now long vote election, and we get up long section 50 on this constitution. And we special right, Mr. Speaker, over the rights, and we talk about inside on constitution. Can rights he come up, nice stop. There's a one plus rights plus citizen, specifically law citizen, non-citizen, specifically law citizen. Whether you're an automatic citizen or naturalized citizen, this is a specific right. Blow you'll vote, national election, and section 50, blow Papua New Guinea Constitution. And we talk out long him. Now let's get him blow me plan more provincial government, Mr. Speaker. Me blow thing him also government even fail him. Government and me fail him. Work belong in I need on section 225, where constitution requiring government to provide him sufficient resources. Government even fail him. Long sufficient resources, you're going to law enforcing institution, no police, no army, no other forces will help him long conducting this election in the safest way. All been failing. Now all been failing. Long provide him sufficient funding long electoral commission. Long update him common role. Common role blow people. Long Papua New Guinea. Usat them qualify. Usat them fit man long vote. Now usat them fit man no sanablo election. More provincial government. I mean look long in the glass in long in the ting and me come long him. Mr. Speaker. Me blood talk them. Government them provide him sufficient funding in accordance with section 225. Also ask them you talk long. The Honourable Minister of Long Security, Internal Security, he presented paper and asked them talk. There was not sufficient fund under that Electoral Commission, which is a constitutional office. Now, fund belonging is guaranteed under section 225 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution. Now, even provide him sufficient fund on time. Now, Mr. Speaker, Honourable Speaker, government he fail him this country in a big time, and we fail him. Plenty money go on common role, check him common role, Electoral Commission provide him common roles, updated common roles. Long all by look him name long only stop past them before all by vote. Electoral Commission provide him because government provide him money. Long by all update common role. Now common role by stable of black and white and by stable paper. Long all the rights, all the people in this country only qualified to vote. I need section 50. Long all by look him now, all by vote. Not only no make him, and yet the election been come on, and been come on, Mr. Speaker. So me feel him strong or say there was a complete deprivation of the rights of natural and automatic citizen, the natural citizens of the country to vote. And people are heavy and come up. People are scared of them. Now, people are something we talk finish. Long resources provide him. Long enable him this election. Long by carry him out. And election, people are considering, and we go beyond long constitutional law requirement. I need section 105. Mr. Acting Speaker. Section 105, and we talk long. Once the writ is issued, writ must issued. Now election must be conducted. Now time the return of the writ long this parliament, and a 5-year anniversary. 5-year anniversary. From the time only member elected to come inside. And from the time writ issued and the coming up long time, election writ is issued, come return to Parliament. This is by constituting 5 years. Election must be, the terms of the members of Parliament must be 5 years, Mr. Speaker. But it went beyond requirement of Section 105. The Electoral Commissioner taking authority long as the sanction long Governor General all extend him election long some constituency or electorate, and that went beyond and in breach of Section 105 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sorry, acting will come sit down plenty time or sooner. Now you come sit down, stop. Mr. Speaker, so me play considering was Section 105 was breached. So me play starting to some matter Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court by Scalim now. Now me like talk so long this honorable House, Mr. Speaker. Also me play needing opinion of Supreme Court whether the election 2022 was done consistent with Section 105, consistent with Section 225 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution, which require him long providing facilities, whether it be consistent with the organic law on national election long this country. Mr. Speaker, all of them are in breach. Action block government and we broke him law. Now the Supreme Court close to time, and I'm going to be a counsel in that case, Mr. Speaker. I am a counsel myself. Now making some license will be renewed, I have to argue the case myself. License number 102. Mr. Acting Speaker, you come inside, please. So there's a matter before the Supreme Court, Mr. Chairman, once the Supreme Court gives an opinion, that Supreme Court opinion will be binding. Long election, long 2027. So it's governing Bulukim can, all this constitutional section me talk long in. Now, depriving rights belong citizens of Sanabla election, all on board to election, then this precedent, we hope to get it from the Supreme Court by help him. So government by Nabla play games along 2027. Because the Supreme Court, me play confident by giving decision. Now this decision is binding on anybody. Whoever breaches the Constitution and breaches the Supreme Court enunciation, this is the Supreme Court, and Bampla prosecute him all by Golobuimo, Bomana. This law by come up. So me put in notice also that this matter, Mr. Chairman of the committee, this matter is before the Supreme Court. Mr. Acting Speaker, Mila talk leak, law system election. Now you got. People are seeking more advice from Australian government. Yahweh Riong, Honorable the Yari Riong, member of Suave at that time, was a member appointed mem long take charge long. Whether people can send him this system election of this country. Long first past the post, you go along the system. Now government all right him, appoint him, and spending more time long Australia. I must have all been established Australia. One time a lawyer. All we're going to talk you go. Mr. Acting Chairman, all we're going to talk you go. No, all come up in system 3 preference. Or now you may call him preferential election system. Even come up. Mr. Acting Speaker, this system, and we give him big play people and me must talk. Maybe long Highlands, no long New Guinea Islands, no sample half, I think you're right, so long Morve, and give big play heavy long me play on this preferential system. Ushat, me plex idea, me plex sim long Australia. Australia, you know, I work in this 3 preference election. Also working that plot, so come, show me blow Papua New Guinea, walking triple man by me vote. Vote number 1, vote number 2, vote number 3. Mr. Acting Speaker, you saw election, all conduct him. Lo morobe. Mila tutok lo morobe. Mina tok long alpla, maybe sample to come up with him. Election come up Morobe, before preference first past the post, there is one vote, one nomination, one campaign, one vote, one decision. That's it. Who's the member? Straight. You can simply X vote, majority vote, nominal all candidates. You're the winning candidate. Straight. No plenty expenses were involved. All man all more old sawe, Mr. Acting Sir. Usa all sawe leader belong all sawe leader belong all. Usa man me fit man leader. Example of me yet. Me no happy me yet, but true. Lo me. Lo 97 miserable election. Me go campaign. Me no go bribe me Malta, so me go campaign. Talk me one good plan money. You play voting me. Why me come up leader below you play? No all voting me. One campaign, one nomination, one campaign, one vote, one declaration, one member parliament. Straight. No I plan the heavy. No I plan the heavy. You come up. Now time for this preferential system come. Aye.
1, 2, 3 vote.
1, 2, 3 vote, Mr. Speaker. Papua New Guinea got plenty money where? Plenty money where? You work in Vinland, number 1 vote. You work in Vinland, number 2 vote. You work in Vinland, number 3 vote. Time voting finish. Why you pay him number 1 counting? Long all scrutiny is this kind. Number 2 counting, by you all paying scrutiny. Number 3 vote on the count long scrutiny. Hey, plenty bravery come inside, Mr. Speaker. 2012, me win of first council vote. Me win here. All voting me here. Nearest rival him come long. 20,000 difference beyond me. Me win in 2012, clear cut. One kind of similar 2017, clear vote here, me win here. That's all count him second vote. All man putting money inside long Kakaruk na go inside long counting place. Rouse him, all big roosters say, rouse him, put him bell belong in, lewa belong in, rouse him, come up him money and sap him go inside long Kakaruk to the electoral corps. You belong here, kai. All kai money prevent him to win. That's a fact. All man, all working inside long electoral commission, all counting board. Only been admitting on me after 2 years. After 2 years. That went on in 2017. 2017. No, 2022, all Morbe talk. You boy can't kiss him. Little by member. And I got in through. I won the first count. I won the second, third count. I'm here. For Parliament. But it cost money. It cost bribery. It caused corruptions before you come to here. That is why we come to Parliament, Prime Minister, on him. You like him preferential system, you can maintain him. You can maintain him. No, people talk about people like him pace past the post. That is why I recommend, Mr. Chairman, long you put in a recommendation that organic law must change. Long giving province long all by decide, or like him faith past the post, or like him preferential system. Because me sawe, some of man all promote him preferential system. Now me talk lo morbe, or the morbe talk, me play like him faith past the post. Me play no got plenty money, all morbe, all businessman, plenty businessman, all brought up in the system from Plalo Islands, all got plenty money. All my campaign no money. Lo morbe me play like campaign no talk long God. Now, people say campaign on democracy. Now, people say campaign on good plan, man. People say campaign. Now, on this plan, both sides come up. Now, that member people mark him and go and up talk yes long. Now, people he talk yes long. Sarim come to here. Sarim come to Parliament. Now, Sarim go on 1 council ward. Now, you go on 1 LLG. True on democracy, people like him. Now, people like him one nomination, 1 campaign, 1 vote, 1 count, 1 declaration. Member can't stop here. Also now we can't stop, not to talk stop. Mr. Acting Speaker. So we like him also, Mr. Chairman, you take note The preferential system, Islam is sample by talk yes to emblem all. People we want the first past the post. People like him. Send him long give him power and province long by decide. People by decide. Long elect him come inside. Number 2, Mila talk. Long failure belong electoral commission. Long record him all, Mr. Chairman. You're going to get a Supreme Court opinion. Now, just in case Supreme Court opinion no come out, you must put him law that suppose electoral officer, electoral commission, register him, all the man was supposed to be in the common roll, right? Then they should be prosecuted or government should be prosecuted. Because Section 50 of the Papua New Guinea Constitution, which guarantees our special right, me emphasizing special right, not just a right, it's a special right of the citizen being deprived. That is why, all of them must be recorded. And we must pass the law to make sure that before the election is conducted, you must be satisfied, we must be satisfied that every single human being who qualified to vote or stand for the election in its constituency must be recorded. Must be recorded. Number 2, the government, you must make sure Section 225 requires you to make sure you provide adequate facilities to the constitutional office, one of which is the Electoral Commission. Now, if you recommend strong, if any government, whoever, is failing its duty, failing its constitutional obligation to provide the money, they shall be prosecuted. They shall be prosecuted. No, and Fred, you bring this draft law come into the parliament, you may debate. You may pass in this law. So we can guarantee the citizen that their rights under Section 50 of the PNG Constitution is being enforced, and all the system of this country and the government of this country had what its best. We're going to get a Supreme Court opinion very shortly, but I want full implementation, and I hope that the chairman, through you, will recommend appropriate legislation to be brought before this parliament. And finally, let us not, this country is an independent country. We are intelligent people here. We got too many university graduates from here. And we must rely on our intelligence. We must be innovative. We must be creative. I want Papua New Guineans to come up with their own system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One bill is one time you. Thank you.
Thank you. Your 20 minutes have lapsed. The honourable member for Suave.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I would just like to take this opportunity to commend the interim report presented by the Chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on the General Elections. Firstly, to thank the Honourable Prime Minister for having the foresight to establish this committee. Just some quick remarks. I think the work of the committee is so important because the electoral reform process and elections underpin the strength of our democracy. And I support wholeheartedly the work that the committee chairman and the members have done to date. Only ask through you, Deputy Speaker, that my governor take note that Simbu as a province and also the other provinces have to contribute to consultation. The key challenge with respect to electoral reform, through you, Deputy Speaker, from the way we see it, in my district, is that it's an enumeration challenge. We have to get to the point where we achieve one vote, one person, one count. And currently in the world, if we go to the largest democracy, India, we've gone to Australia, and the chairman has kindly updated this Honourable House on the efficiency of the systems with respect to the electoral process. These are things that we can easily achieve in this term of government. So I commend the report, and I ask that we all continue to support the work of this committee with respect to them highlighting that without political will, through budgetary support, this can't be done. And further, before I take my seat, I would also like to say that it is an absolute breath of fresh air to see that the committee has also published and put in their report that for the 2 million kina allocated, public monies, taxpayers' monies, that they've only used 1 million, 50% of that money, to produce this report and present it in 12 months. It's a record, and this House has to take note of the committee's commitment and dedication to attending to something that underpins our democracy and is so important to Parliament and the way we conduct business. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Minister for Health.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'd also like to take this opportunity to commend the Chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on 2022 General Elections, Honourable Governor Helen Baird, and the committee members for a very good report done so far. Deputy Speaker, I think my intervention will be short. As per the report, one of the statements, I think one of the significant statements made by the governor is that reforms would probably take about 5 to 10 years to fully implement. But we have a general election that's coming in 2027. In regards to that election that is in the horizon, what should we do as a government? And I think my intervention is very short, and I think that is one thing I would want the committee to take up, and I think include in their recommendations, and that is in terms of deterrence. Wabek Open Electorate, where I come from, in the 2022 election, I think we have had one of the worst elections that electorate has ever had in its history. It was riddled with a lot of law and order, with a lot of other issues. And Deputy Speaker, what I would want to recommend is that what have we as a government done so far in terms of the perpetrators who were obviously carrying out these illegal hacks right in front of our noses? Now their identities are unknown. Mr. Deputy Speaker, their identities are known. The security personnel on ground know the culprits who have gone about doing roadblocks, intimidated people, shot at people with guns. Now if we don't address them, what would happen would be a state-sponsored terrorism in the next general elections. By our lack of action, we would, in a way, indemnify these perpetrators. And they will go out with impunity and do the same things again. So my short intervention, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I recommend to the committee, is that one of the recommendations that should be included is to round up all those people who have been identified and put them where they belong, and that is behind the bars. If we don't do that, there will be no deterrence, and I'm telling you, in 2024 and 27, we will expect the worst elections, as predicted by this committee. So my short intervention, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in the interest of time, let me endorse the statements being made by the Governor for Morobe and obviously our member for Suave, is that we must arrest the perpetrators, the people who caused so much problems and trouble in the last election. We must go and arrest them. If we allow them, we in a way will encourage more to do the same. So you must arrest them all, please. We must arrest. We're a government. When we don't act, these people will take that as an incentive to do more harm to our country. So I think one recommendation would, to start off, I think with the reform it will take some more time, but to put some sort of deterrence in the process, I think we should arrest the people who have caused a lot of law and order problem. I think 2027 was one of the worst in my province. I don't know about other provinces, but in my province it's one of the worst. And the spill out is actually happening right now. We're having so much, Anga province is in a state of anarchy at the moment because of things that were not addressed by our own security personnel. No one is above the law. We must arrest people who cause or who break our laws. If we allow them to continue, that will encourage more people to do harm. I think another something before I sit down I want to make mention is in terms of the conduct of the Electoral Commission. I don't know whether the terms of reference cover that, but I think the committee should look into the performance of the Electoral Commission, and they should make recommendations to the House as to how we should better that process. There should be some requirements in terms of the performance, some KPIs that the Electoral Commission should achieve. We can't allow our constitutional office holders to enjoy, they can't be a law unto themselves. They can't be beyond reproach. We should have clear KPIs for them to achieve, and if they overstep, if they fail to achieve those, they should be held answerable. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Member for North East.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Me too like to thank you long. Chairman Blong, Reform Law 22 election. In preparation for 2027, and by come close to. Me like touch on one block point. Number 2, term of reference number 2. Election dispute of return. Election is not an easy process. How you become install this parliament? You blow strong bloodline, well-respected leaders of this country. After election, you may come inside of this parliament. Time people like walking walk, Los 7 district, province Rumbla, election petition will come up. These election petitions, Sambla me good blah, Sambla no got baseless argument, no got grounds long end. I think this committee, with the technical advisors from Transparency International, National Research Institute, and with this interim report, they can come up with a final report. For the blessings of this parliament so that 27, it must not be chaotic election. Time people when they come, you mix some petitions, me touch him again. Law nomination fee, and we got caught long and even touch him, the Supreme Court got reference long end. But when everybody want to come like a petitioner, bond fee we must lose long end. And we lose the National Court dispute of returns. Before we go to Supreme Court appeal, there must be some sort of security deposit fee on the cost. For instance, 100,000, 50,000. Before I'm appeal na pay you go to Supreme Court. Or otherwise, all got a bill to National Court, and must pay him first time to the first respondent. Now you look at my election, court is like a business, if I am not wrong. Because 1,000 nomination, anybody on the street, Tom, Dick, and Harry. As long as we get 1,000 democracy, process na democracy rise of Papua New Guinea, you can set up the election. So all get a pay nomination fee. Now blow me yet 76 candidates highest in the country. Or you got right to set up. Nomination fee like one up to Supreme Court reference to no God. But when you win they come to court, there must be some sort of law that will guide that process of election petition or dispute of returns. Now, when by you looking by me walk straight, by no got delay, run the courthouse, or some narbla sumatin, you may come lay or some leader, no got, you go to courthouse, but you may come also narbla sumatin. You go, like, kill him time, na. Time you may like walk him not, walk in, no got, come to narbla election close to. So me like appeal, Chairman, while you are looking at 2027 election, Kerseri Moldisla, he come inside so that Usai put him dispute of return, and must come with a cost. Because election process, how you come, you play yesterday. How you play spending money, you play yesterday. You must also protect him, win, blow you mean, and you must save him. People blow you mean, time you must tell the parliament. You don't have you mean wasting time in the courthouse. Narbla point blow you mean here. LPV, first past the post. Mr. Bodim Honorable, Governor Morobe too. Tasol area blowing Morobe, online Savarim talk, online blow too. Area blow me must be. And police stop close to. Army stop close to. No got time for election and security am all right. But you thinking back, you go to Highlands. When you talk about first past the post, all get up by fighting or social problem, bridge by pull down. Narbla clan by no commander, trouble warfare. I think this system, LPV system is okay. The voting system is okay. But this committee look at the process of counting. That's where the delay. Suppose you may talk now, you may pass them on talk. Oh, Sambla by Gola LPV. Sambla by you me. Eagle pass past the post. We are one nation, one country, one people. This system, LPV, only sends him in a way that Papua New Guinea, you Mr. Bia, we are suited to this because of the tribal warfare. Kind block, come up, block, get a hub. Awesome, na sabo simila walk him. He gonna pass past the post. Security must. You will put him all get a hub, the district, na province play you me. Now God, I think LPV system, and shoot him this la country straight. Sample and more good. I think all brother Blamila Highlands, it will be the Western nightmare. Restriction of people. Kind we by come up. Also, Nadisla report too. On this interim report, Chairman, you want them all team you. Very good, comprehensive interim report you presenting today. But for the pyramid of 27 election, Kerseri Mol Narbla talk Mibla Tromaya, so that election is a costly election. Even if you go to court too, it's also costly. Even if you go along first past the post or LPV system, it's all at a cost. We are a young democracy country, so 2027, we want fair and best election for this country. Also, Miss Sabodim Disla report, but incorporated some law Disla talk with me, brothers talk with Disla Parliament, so that 2027 is around the corner. And members of Parliament, you must all cooperate, not support him, not Disla government where you can put in money or Disla good cause, blow election 27 must come up. In 2012, Common Law update league. In 2017, Common Law is another supplementary role. What is this supplementary role for? Is it a ghost name? Minus the dead ones? Add on Usadigo 18 years now. We can't call it a supplementary role. Common role must start now in preparation for 2027. Supplementary role is not a good one. We must consolidate with a common role for 2027 Bayumi Yusim. And it's so challenging to all get stakeholders, all members too. Time election is a process, you must enroll. Awareness electoral commission must go in 6 months or a year, so that everybody who said you participate in a process of election in your electorate. Now you marking LW or marking Governor W, you must also take responsibility. Now you go along hotline or one of my electoral commissioner set him to get have branches or districts. You must go and enroll. Oh, you mean all the time by not talk government by come last do you by enrolling me? Sometimes online believe me also a lazy too. Also the meet up online believe me or report all put him under the leadership of Governor Bett. This report is good. I fully support. But in preparation for 2027, you must put in money so that there won't be any supplementary common role. Now, Narapla too. For the best election by Yumi Holina 2027. With that, I fully support him this interim report, la Samblam Blatok, bad one and team belonging, honorable bad one and team belonging, incorporate him, na put him final one million. Thank you, Deputy Chairman.
The Honorable Minister for Internal Trade and Investment.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. I also want to add some comments on the report, and I want to start by thanking the Chairman and his committee for giving us this report within 12 months and within budget. Mr. Acting Speaker, my first comments are, I am surprised to see this interim report. And in my mind, in the focus areas, one aspect that I expected to see in the focus area is the type of voting system. There is no comment on this in the initial report. I expected us to talk about whether you look by continual manual voting system or electronic system. It is such a glaring, obvious, missing aspect which is really key. Rest of the world has gone to electronic voting system. Like India, 1 billion people, 1.4 billion, and they do it in one day. I'm surprised that the committee hasn't touched that very important area in your report. That to me is critical. Are we going to still continue with manual voting system, or are we going to go electronic like the rest of the world? We are going to very soon celebrate 50 years of independence. Are we going to still talk about the archaic system? So I think this aspect should be looked at in the final report coming to Parliament.
Minister, we have a point of order. Member for Suave, what's your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, just to for the House's reference, it's on page 7, focus area 6.
Honourable Minister, you resume your seat while the member raises point of
It's
order.
on focus area number 6, page 7 of the report, the issue about biometrics.
Honourable Member, your point of order is in order. I think the member have alluded that there is a report in regard to what, Minister, you have commented for. So I'll allow you to continue on with your debate.
Mr. Speaker, I know these comments, but it's not clear in this report. The second issue that I want to raise is the correct issue being raised by the committee. It seems every election we budget for the election in the year of the election. It puts a lot of strain on our national budget. And most times, the Electoral Commissioner always says they still got unpaid bills of the previous election. With the final report coming to us in November, I fear that we will not start appropriating budgets for the next election that they are now recommending in the budget for next year. I support the view of the Chairman and the committee. We should really start to budget for the election 3 or 4 years out and start appropriating budgetary allocations to the Electoral Commission 3 or 4 years out so that we don't stretch ourselves in the last year and end up with so many bills. So I would like to urge the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, even if we don't have a figure coming through to us in the November budget, some appropriation must be made for the funding of the 2027 elections in the coming budget. I think it's very important, and it should be rolled over 3 to 4 years. In that way, we are able to meet all the bills, and if they are unpaid bills, we must also clear the unpaid bills now. And that's very, very important. So I fully support the concept that the electoral planning and funding must be rolled over 5 years. And appropriation must be made starting the 24 budget. Those are my 2 comments. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Governor, the Central.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I would like to first of all start by commending the Chairman and the members of the committee for producing this report within time and within budget. I also want to perhaps endorse most of the comments that the previous members have made, but I would like to also point out a couple of comments that I would like to differ on. And I think the comment by the Honourable Governor Fumarobe on the preference of the voting system, whether to go first past the post or go the LPV system. I just want to point out again to re-emphasize what the member for Mosby Northeast has said. I think when we talk about this, we should be thinking of it as a country rather than going province and asking the provinces to decide what they want to do. So on that note, I want to say that the LPV system came into place from a review that was conducted on the existing system that was first past the post system. And 2 key points came out of that. One is in terms of the election and representation of women in Parliament. And so the preferential system actually gives more opportunity for women to be elected into Parliament. And I will say that perhaps for me and Cassie, that's the case in terms of these particular elections, but it has been the case in the other previous elections where we have seen women elected into Parliament. Had it been first past the post, I don't think we'd be seeing women in Parliament. So that was one issue that came out from the review of the first past the post. The other one was the election-related violence, and especially in the Highlands region. Going LPV system helps to reduce the election-related violence. So I wanted to perhaps state and re-emphasize those 2 key points that came out of the review of the then existing first past the post system. I also want to perhaps contribute by saying in terms of focusing on what needs to be done, given the resource, the financial requirements for getting the system up and going, the desired system. I think in prioritizing that, we need to look at how do we get all of our eligible voters on the electoral roll to be able to vote. And I think the way that we've been doing it, having electoral commission workers going out and doing the updates has been quite costly. And I think we already have an existing system of provincial and local level governments right down to the ward levels where we have ward members. And if we have to look at cost-effective strategies in ensuring that the eligible voters are actually enrolled in a timely manner, ready to participate in voting for their leaders in the next elections, I think I would like to recommend that we actually look at that more seriously and consider using the provincial and local level government systems to update those roles. And perhaps the Electoral Commission can go out and do random sampling to see if the numbers that they are getting or they get from the work that provincial and local level government systems produce is actually, use that as use the Electoral Commission workers to go out and do random sampling to verify if that is a more effective way. But I definitely believe it's a more cost-effective and way of having our common roles updated. The other thing I would like to bring perhaps to the attention of the committees, in my view and in my experience, I think the administration of the elections is the critical area, and obviously that unfolds into several parts. And so I see there are already recommendations, but even amounts that prioritizing what can we do within the resource envelope that we have to do some of these reforms. And one of the things that I've seen is that I think it's actually quite, it's a conflict of interest when we have provincial government workers who are actually involved in the election process or election administration process. And so I think if we look around that, my recommendation to the committees is looking around that as to how do you try to reduce the bias in that when you have people already within the system who are going and administering elections. So that is an area that I would like to see perhaps the committee to have a look at in trying to improve the election results, making sure that it is what the people, what is marked by the people at the polling booth is what is read out in the counting room, and the leaders that are elected actually are the ones that people voted for at the polling booth. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rabaul.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Deputy Speaker, sorry. I also would like to express my appreciation on behalf of the people of Rabaul to the Chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on the 2022 General Elections, especially interim report. I'd like to mention just 2 points. Firstly, maybe the Special Parliamentary Committee should focus more on the actual obtaining of power from the voters. Power in any national general election is vested with the people. And it's how candidates extract the power or the approval from the voters that is of great importance. We talk about free and fair election. Where does the element of freedom of expression of choice come in? It comes from there, the actual obtaining of power by candidates. That's where legislation should be focused. It's easy to say bribery, but the definition of bribery ought to be expanded also to include instances where we think it does not constitute bribery. For example, setting up committees here and there. Candidates should be encouraged to go out, simply speak like what the Honorable Governor from Morobe said. Just speak, educate the voters. explain to the voters what you are capable of thinking in terms of your leadership of them. Not going to them and dishing out funds here and there, and setting up committees, putting certain individuals on weekly pay, so that they also do the campaigning on behalf of the candidate. I think it's important that this special parliamentary committee also focuses on that, especially the area where power is obtained from the people. How is it obtained? Which they express during the actual casting of the vote. That's my first point. The second very minor point, that there should be a serious restriction as to the time within which candidates ought to have their names in the common rolls. In the last general election, it became so very obvious. So many candidates had no names on the common roll. And they were just granted approval on the day of nomination when they turned up. They looked up the common roll, their names were not there. And whoever was responsible agreed that their names be included in the list of those who just nominated. That is an area that should be looked at also. Mr. Speaker, those are the, as Mr. Deputy Speaker, those are the only two very minor points that I wish to raise. Of course, there were many things that were not right during the last election, but I need not go into them. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Deputy Speaker, I just want to appreciate all the commentaries who've rendered support to Chairman Governor Alan Baird for the interim report that is presented to Parliament. When we resumed office for this Parliament, we made a commitment that the entire conduct of 2022 National General Election would be reviewed, and that is work in progress. This is assurance to the country that this body of national leaders are working to have a total scrutiny of what happened in the last election. They also, taking stock of how we've come thus far, I want to make a short commendation in commenting them for this interim report. We look forward to the full completion of this report. I give assurance these recommendations contained in not just this report, but the final report would assist us prepare better so that in 2027 elections, we secure one vote, one person, one vote, cleaner voting system, so that what is meant in its fullest meaning of democracy will be a gift this body of leaders give to Parliament in the 2027 National General Elections. Importantly, the indication by this Parliament that we render support to the process at the very earliest. This will be looked by the executive government in the fullest. We give assurance that we support this committee at work. We'll ensure they are also resourced so that full report comes, whether it's biometric voting, NID process, the entire electoral processes that needs to be overhauled will be overhauled to secure democracy and the democratic processes for 2027 and going forward. So with this, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I just want to move that we adjourn further debates to a subsequent sitting so that Governor Parkop's statement to the Parliament on the gender-based violence be brought forward. Mr. Speaker, I now move that further debates be made out of the day for a subsequent sitting, please.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The Chairman of Gender Equality and Women Empowerment.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Honourable members, I present report number 1 on the inquiry into gender equality policies and institution, gender-based violence, and sorcery accusatory accusation-related violence on behalf of the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, I seek leave of the Parliament to make a statement in connection with the report.
Is the leave granted? Chairman, make your speech.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable members of Parliament, I will preface my speech by advising you all that the report that is presented to Parliament on behalf of the committee is a 48-page report, but our committee has condensed it into a 3-page reports so that members of Parliament, you can be able to read some of this committee's report. Our committees of Parliament, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we take a lot of time, we put a lot of effort, and we submit reports that are quite long. And many times, perhaps, we don't have the time to read them. So our committee has taken time to condense it so that honourable members of Parliament can read it and understand and appreciate, so we can all together work towards realizing the recommendation especially. But let me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, go on to my formal speech in relation to the report. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm honoured to be the chair of the first Parliamentary Permanent Committee on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, established by our 11th National Parliament. The Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment, built on the work of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Gender-Based Violence, which operated during the 10th Parliament, of which I was also proud to be an active member. I would like to take this opportunity, Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, thank the then chair of that Special Parliamentary Committee, Mr. Charles Abel, for his dedicated and passionate leadership, and equally thank the members of that committee. More particularly, I want to thank Deputy Chairman of that committee, who is also my deputy of this Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment, Honourable Alan Baird. He had played a significant role in the Special Parliamentary Committee, and he continues to provide leadership, dedication, commitment with the other members of the committee. The efforts of the Special Parliamentary Committee resulted in extremely frank discussion with all levels of government, private sector, and civil society. Through our inquiries, new light was shown on the inadequacies of our efforts. These were captured in the 2 report tabled in Parliament on GVB in August 2021 and April 2022, which included over 70 recommendations for action. Our Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment have used these 2 reports to guide our own inquiries and activities. Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, I would also like to thank, on behalf of our committee, our Prime Minister, Honourable James Marape, and the members of Parliament for approving the formation of the Special Parliamentary Committee during the 10th Parliament, and then importantly, elevating the committee to a permanent committee in this term of Parliament. This act is a first and important step in demonstrating the government's and Parliament's commitment, and it is significant acknowledgement of the importance of gender equality, women's empowerment for the future of our country. It responds to our national constitution goal and directive principle, which enshrine equality as a foundational value of Papua New Guinea. The expanded terms of reference for the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment are an important step forward, and I would like to thank the government and Parliament for this forethought in taking this action. Further, unlike the last committee, the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment not only has an expanded scope which covers gender equality and women's empowerment, as well as gender-based violence. But importantly, it's a permanent committee, meaning it will continue beyond the life of this Parliament, continue to have oversight over this important national agenda. This is a very important decision and a bold step forward in our collective efforts towards achieving gender equality, women's empowerment, and ending gender-based violence in the long term. It also supports the advancement of our country's commitment both at the national and international stage. I also thank the current members of the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. Most of them volunteered to be members of this committee. It is a privilege and honor for me to be the chair of this important committee of Parliament and to have oversight over these long outstanding national goals and expected for our country. So I want to take this time, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, to acknowledge members of the committee, Honourable Rufina Peter, Governor of Central Province, Honourable William Bando, Member for Koroba Lake Kupiago, Honourable Lawyer Boy Samuel, Member for Mosby Northwest, Honourable Ricky Morris, Member for Alatau, Honourable Mash Narawak, Member for Wawaria, and of course, Honourable Alan Baird, Governor of Mississippi. Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, as all who know me will be well aware, I have long been a champion of rights of women and girls in our country. And I will continue to be a voice of women and girls as long as I'm here in this Parliament. I strongly believe that without empowering women and girls of PNG to actively, equally, and safely participate in all aspects of public and private life, we will never properly harness the full potential of our country's abundant human resources and ensure inclusive and sustainable development for all our people. And women and girls make 50% of our population. Global research concludes that the higher levels of gender equality result in happier adolescents, whereas the greater the gender inequality in a society, the less likely girls are to survive to full life. High levels of female education and literacy lowers rates of child mortality. And the inclusion of more women in political leadership positions results in flow-on benefits for the country's economy and society more broadly. The more bargaining power women have at home, the healthier the children, healthier for their children and their welfare. The more women are educated, the more bargaining power they have in the home, and the more they can safely and meaningfully drive their own destinies. Women are almost twice as likely to participate in labor markets of nations with high level of economic freedom than those in low levels. Women are left behind to the detriment of all and the true gain of none. The opportunity gender parity presents is real, not only for the advancement of human rights, not only for the economic destiny of Papua New Guinea, in fact, for the future of everyone, everywhere, in our country and beyond. Mr. Deputy Speaker, our national constitution, the founding document which guides the action of every single person in our country, including every government, ministers and parliament, which should define our country, our people, now and into the future, makes very clear that equality between women and men is a core value and a goal of this nation. This value must be protected and promoted by all of us. The directive principle that frames the Constitution demands that every person is and has to be free from domination or oppression, so that each man or woman will have the opportunity to develop as a whole person in relation with others. Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, that is in our Constitution. It's not something our committee just pull out from the air. The second directive principle calls for all citizens to have an equal opportunity to participate in and benefit from the development of our country. To that end, the directive principle recognizes that obstacles to education and other opportunities which face women at present should be removed. And as far as it is within the power of the government to do so, the difficulties facing women who wish to involve themselves in the affairs of the nation should be reduced. It is the committee's role to use our power to achieve the goals set out in the Constitution. And we in the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, Women's Empowerment take the Constitution as our guiding light. The Constitution and its value of equality lead the work of the committee. Our Constitution's aim is to ensure that women can meaningfully participate in the development of our country without fear and with every opportunity to exercise and enjoy their constitutional rights. This is the goal to which our committee aspires. Our Constitution guides our effort during the committee's first hearing from 24th to the 26th of May 2023 and a second hearing on the 18th to 19th of July 2023, where we heard testimonies of those in government, private sector, and civil society to better understand why our country continues to struggle with ever-increasing rates of violence against women and girls. I am still shocked, and our committee is shocked, when I recall some of the testimony that we heard from our expert official witnesses. Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, officials from the National Department of Health shared data with us which showed an alarming rate in the number of people presenting at health services for cases related to violence, including intimate partner violence and socially accusatory related violence. They advise us that the data is only, and I quote from their presentation, only the tip of the iceberg, a catastrophic human rights violation alarming for a country not at war. And I emphasize that point, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament. We are not at war. We have not declared a war, but in reality, we are at war. If not addressed, they go on, that they suggest that the case of violence presented at health services around the country could exceed more than 100,000 a year within only a few years, stressing our overburdened health system and overloading our justice services. Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, I emphasize that point again now. In a few years' time, the statistics, just the reported one, would exceed 100,000 just in 1 year. And we are not at war. We compare that statistics to those countries that are at war. And the situation should compel us to take more action than we are taking up to date. Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, following on from this testimony, we also heard from the police who provided similar alarming testimony, even recognizing that cases of GBV sorcery, accusory-related violence are grossly underreported around the country. They advised that from January 2021 to April 2023, there were 30,028 cases reported to Family Sexual Violence Unit across the country. 30,028. From those 30,028, only, and I want to emphasize, only 1,304 arrests were made. That amounts to only 4% were made. So from the 30,000, you may arrest him and police arrest him only 1,000. This is the dire situation facing our country, facing women and girls in our country. That's a mere 156 conviction. Oh, sorry, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'll rephrase that. There were a mere 156 convictions, 8 of which were sorcery, accusatory-related violence. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, 30,028 cases, only 1,304 arrests, and conviction is only 156. This is what women and girls, and even some men too, have to face in our country. This is the statistics or the report, the reported one that was presented to the Family Sexual Violence Unit in our country. This amounts to approximately 75 cases, resulting in conviction every year, or just about 3 convictions per province per year. This is a staggering low conviction rate, considering the violence that we all know that is going on in our country. And I post here, Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, yesterday, Minister for Internal Security reminded us one of the security challenges facing our country, gender-based violence. It's increasing. It's what our women and girls especially face every day, even in this city. Just getting up onto a bus or going to a market. Going to public spaces is a big challenge for women and girls in our country. It is, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, it is explained by the data on police ratio that perhaps we can understand this, try to understand it somehow, which shows that we are currently insufficient police officers per head of population in most provinces. A review of the 2022 Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary Annual Report shows that the ratio varies between 1 officer per 714 people in NCD Central Divisional Command to 1 officer per 4,282 people in in the Highlands Eastern End Divisional Command. Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, I want to emphasize that again. United Nations recommendation is 1 to 400. In NCD Region and Central Command, we are 1 to 714. In the Eastern Command, up in the Highlands, it's 1 to 4,282. The Minister for Internal Security reminds us this is a big challenge in law and orders generally, but more particularly in respect of women and girls, ending gender-based violence. It's a much even bigger challenge. Of the total number of Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary officers, there are currently only 114 officers staffing the Family and Sexual Violence Unit, who are dedicated to assisting thousands of GBV and sorcery accusatory-related survivors every year. Violence is increasing for everyone in PNG. It's worrying because 70% of our young people, both male and female, are saying that, and this is from the testimony we got, that they are violent in their relationship. So in intimate relationship, there's already high level of violence. Then it is escalated into the community, into the district and the provinces at large, and into our nation. With such high rates of harm, we are all aware that there will be no easy or quick fix for addressing the violence against women and girls. Nevertheless, we must do better. No matter who we are, must all commit to doing everything in our personal power to act for change. Our hearing report contains 29 new recommendations. These new recommendations should be read in conjunction with the recommendations made by the Special Parliamentary Committee on GBV in the previous two reports, 2021 and 2022. While all recommendations warrant actions, there are a number of which I am compelled to draw to the attention of the highest level here in Parliament and in government. Mr. Deputy Speaker, honourable members of Parliament. First, it is absolutely imperative that all levels of government work together now and with a sense of resolve to develop, fund and implement workforce, develop strategies to increase the recruitment of properly trained and capacitated, firstly, health service workers, and secondly, police officers. That's recommendation number 8 of our report. Every province must have an appropriate ratio of health staff and police officers to citizens. We must strive to achieve the United Nations recommended 1:400 ratio, police officers to number of citizens. Service must be staffed with trained and experienced staff who have the support, resources, and willingness to meet the needs of their population, more especially survivors of those who are at risk of becoming victims to gender-based violence. Without sufficient health workers and police officers, gender-based violence, socially accusatory related violence, survivors will continue to suffer, grow in numbers. Without proper crisis response services and without access to justice, it can only get worse, and it's getting worse. Secondly, at an institutional level, it is beyond urgent that the national government properly staff and resource the National GVB Secretariat. And at this juncture, I want to take note of the commitment government has made. Now it's really up to the Department for Community Development, Religion and Youth to capacitate the Secretariat and get it going. This was an initiative and decision that was made in 2017 to drive the implementation of the National GVB Strategy. Without a central unit with skills, funding, and leadership to drive this agenda, the implementation of the strategy continues to languish. At a provincial level, it is also critical that provincial governors and administrators urgently endorse locally contextualized provincial GVB strategy and establish properly sourced provincial GVB secretariat so that all of us at all levels can work together to address this big challenge, human rights and development challenge in our country. In our decentralized system of government, our sub-national government structures must take on more responsibility for addressing GVB and socially accusatory related violence. Third major recommendation, members of Parliament, Mr. Deputy Speaker, while it is essential that we strengthen our crisis response and justice services for GVB and socially accusatory related violence survivors, in the long term, we must proactively build our society so that our people no longer rely on violence as a means to an end. At the most fundamental level, we must invest more resources in rolling out GVB and socially acoustically related violence prevention and behavior change. We simply cannot accept violence as a way of solving this conflict anymore. It is not Christian, it is not constitutional, and I would submit to that on behalf of our committee that it's neither a cultural or traditional practice. Socially acoustically related violence, for example. Hemi no pasin blow you me. Me born in 1960. Now me over 60. And this phenomena, lo samlo part blow you me here in NCD, Antablo Highlands, nubla phenomena. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's not our culture. It's not a way of life. Our tradition and way of life or heritage is that we defend our people, including women and girls. We create safe environment for them, for everyone. Our recommendation on prevention and behavior change places particular importance on young people and the education system in our country. At school, our girls need to be safe and ensure pathways to the highest level of education. We also need to prioritize initiatives to educate children and young people through the education system on the importance of respectful relationship and the need to use words, not violence, to manage disagreement and conflict. And I want to pause again here, Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament. I commend the government. We are putting emphasis on early childhood. We are complaining about behavior and attitude and violence as a trait of people nowadays. And it's because we have not brought them up rightly. Early childhood is very, very important to addressing many of our behavior pattern, especially tendency to use violence as a means of resolving dispute instead of words. Talk na straight him something heavy by come up. You mean talk na straight him. We also want more resources invested in working with young people both in and out of school system. Our country is a country of youth, yet our youths are lost or almost lost. Unemployment, we acknowledge, among youth is high. Some have lost hope and have lost role models. Youths are our next generation of parents and of leaders. They must be the ones who we ensure that the PNG of our future has a zero tolerance for violence as a means of problem solving. We must be the role models to them, or this cycle of violence will continue, will never end. It can only get worse and worse. Mr. Deputy Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, for real prevention and behavior change to take place in our country, the national government must lead and take responsibility for investing in and inspiring the change needed. As the largest employer and the largest contractor in the country, the government, and this goes not just for national government, but all together, provincial government, district level government, the government can also use its economic power to lift the status of women and girls and to change the trajectory of their lives. By integrating zero tolerance for GVB among its employees, its programs and its contractors, the government can extend the constitutional values of gender equality and put an end to violence or gender-based violence. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, I'll pause here and just explain this very simply. I'll break it down crudely. You may apply law and agree. The steward only walking announcement of him. Lo balus and tambulong. Smoke na kaike boy. Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, In government, we have the ability to say that too against violence. We have the tools. We have the means. We can make an impact on our people to change their behavior, to give up violence. Why? Because a lot of institutions are under our control. Our employees, for example, we are the biggest employer. If we say zero tolerance against gender-based violence, violence generally, you cannot be employed in government if you practice or inhibit this type of behavior. You cannot be. It's a term of employment for you that you come in government, whether it's a district level government or provincial government or national government. You cannot be employed if you have a tendency to commit violence, especially gender-based violence. Likewise, we engage so many contractors. It must be also a term of contract of, contracting all these companies and whatever you. They are going to build us a road. They're going to build this building. They're going to provide this service. At the same time, it's a term of and condition of their contract that they must also, within their own organization, implement this government policy, which national government adopted in 2016, putting an end to gender-based violence. We have control over markets. We have control over PNVs. We have control over hospitals and clinics. If we start saying to our people, if you continue to use violence or have a tendency to violence, we will start to limit you or restrict you or otherwise prevent you from coming to access these services, including the banks. You cannot get access to the banks. You cannot put your kids in school if you are committing or have a tendency to engage in gender-based violence. You change, we see you have substantially changed, Mr. Deputy Speaker, then we can open up the facilities of the government. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, we all want to put an end to violence, including gender-based violence. We are depending on the police all the time. We say, police do this, police do this, not doing this, we complain. But we have the power and the means and the capacity, and we are not using it. This is the impression and the emphasis that this committee, our committee, want to emphasize in this first report we are presenting, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament. From the national level, the subnational level, district level, we must follow and get all our state agencies to implement this very important strategy. We are asking the entire country to stop gender-based violence and to promote gender equality. But we must also start with ourselves. With ourselves could also include and should also include here in Parliament. Now you may talk long when I'm here election. Okay, we also can do it too. If you are involved in promoting violence as a means to get elected, you have to be disqualified. You are not qualified to be nominated to be a member of Parliament. We must start here in Parliament. Then we will start to end violence and crimes. Our people will start to respect each other. It starts with us. The private sector, Mr. Deputy Speaker, members of Parliament, we have to commend them. For the most part, they are already leading in this respect. As government, we must benefit those corporate leaders who are striving to uphold the Constitution and the laws of our country, and those who are working tirelessly to end gender-based violence. We know they are committed to our nation and our people, but they have also seen the price of gender-based violence and violence in unprecedented in their business. The value added by implementing gender equality policies serves to benefit their business, their goals, and the bottom line. In the private sector, they are taking action because they see violence generally and gender-based violence in particular is a liability to their bottom line. It prevents people from coming to work, especially women and girls can come to work. In government, we must start to recognize that as well. It affects the entire government when gender-based violence is prevalent. So government must start to learn from and work with the private sector as partners, as we must learn from and work with the civil society organization, frontline experts, and the international community who are there to support us. On behalf of the committee, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, I call on the government and all agencies of government to read our recommendation and action them. Being the change we want to see in this country, it's incumbent upon us as government, as members of Parliament, as leaders of our people, to uphold the Constitution of our country, to show the founders of our country who believe profoundly in the principle of equality, that we will follow in their footsteps and stop our nation from falling behind the rest of the world in this regard. Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, we are currently 161 out of 162 nations in terms of equality or inequality. It does not have to be this way. We have the power. All we need is the will. We have no time to lose. We must start now. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament, to conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the special role of the civil society in playing their part in our national effort to address gender-based violence and to end socially accusatory related violence. A number of civil society organization representatives participated in our May 2023 hearings and provide us with great insight into the specific challenges women and girls are facing. We heard how hard they are trying to work at the ground level to give help to survivors, access services, and get justice. But we also heard about the many obstacles they face. We know there are many more people working in the communities across the country, tirelessly trying to stem the tide of violence and ease the pain of survivors, many of whom feel abandoned by their own government, by their own leaders, because of a lack of support and care. For the record, therefore, on behalf of the committee, I want to express and thank the good work that the CSOs, civil society organizations, are doing. Before I conclude, I equally thank our development partner, especially UNDP and other agencies of the UN. I also thank on behalf of the committee to our secretariat here. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker and members of Parliament. I commend the Parliament.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
The Speaker, Deputy Speaker, sorry, me like move that Parliament kissing take note of this report where Chairman belong Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, the current Law Parliament. Me like make him one bloody click talk long, give him support.
Good debate.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, me no not talk long blah. Committee report belong Governor Pakop and present him lo email of Parliament, long current status quo, and one of you need to work him as responsible body of leaders, long ensuring you may clean him this floor. PPI stop namelo yumi lo country. All mama blo yumi, all pigini meri blo yumi, all susa blo yumi, ino biro blo yumi. I'm all ino biro blo yumi. I'm all trangu stavan to yumi. All ino stop, country no stop. Simple as that. Man, you no have headman sabus. Mary no sinan lo house. Mama no stop lo backside. Na name lo yumi. Pigini Mary lo yumi stop lo face lo yumi. All gonna Mary lo this bla country. And all pigini Mary lo one bla papa too. All brother lo all susa lo one bla brother too. Yumi as all gonna man lo this bla country must get up now. Na rise up. Na take him responsibility lo rouse him. Fight one to marry lo country limi. Aste tasol mi make him la talk to law and order na mi talk the easiest. No got cost long and contributing money and block respect him law. You don't need a big budget block country today. You mean like a big budget local police, go army, na go local court, na support him law, fix him law and order. Suppose you me behind him law and me rouse him all this block cost. Now by me put him tasol go inside. Mr. Deputy Speaker, long make him road, bridge, school, strategy more people economy na kind of. So me no got plenty talk to legally talk tasol. Now by me finish him give him support loga. A good work committee blog I wanna pack up make him. You may start you may at past time inshallah this house before you look outside. You may yet. Starting past time, online work law parliament, online work law executive government, over the public servant man, beginning man. You may must now talk enough long tasim han trauma han lo mama na crossim ol mama lo country. When I'm hard to make it talk. Me like talking people through this house. Lo year 1997 also talk tari no ting. One blow Mary blow me this time. In fact, my wife that time less lo me. And Paul want to blow man. Me no fight me, me no cross him to you like him this man, you go. Big la court lo hola police station. Man to bla Paul come. Me bla send up talk. Because me out in personal talk so that country can look away. I mean no hard lo talk no lord's plan or something. Trango Mary Samurai, I mean you picking a long way to Massa. You like go, so you go. Me Lucy man. You know fight. You know cross. You like him not la man, you go. Now why you may fight na cross to Maslo country blame na fight him or picking him arista. The easiest thing our country can do right away today, every man of our country. Talking up lo fight him marina. Enough lo abuse him marina. You know can fight him boros na talk prime minister fix him road, fight lo economy, big lo talk time. Abino you go laos na. You shoot him head lo marista plus. We'll ask him about picking him man was la country. You like him country will go good. It starts at the house. No can waste him time now go long house lo to lo Sunday or Saturday now you go lo happen now you cross him Mary picking his stuff house. No you know got big la cost lo this bla. Sends him passing tas all. Walk away from hatred. Walk away. And as Melanisha me harem good la ogra talk to Governor Paco committee chairman make him talk. I no passing belong Christians. Now me talk, I no passing Melanisha. I'm true talk. The mother of Melanisha is an asset to the society. She anchors the household, anchors the family, anchors the tribe, and anchors the community. But we have abused that in contemporary PNG. And please, me asking him again, Papua New Guinea, or picking man, you are on the radio and a TV star. You know, people have to come easy, so free something. You drink beer, drink lo passing lo drink beer, and no one go cross lo not plana, including old Mary picking. You drink beer, you drink lo passing lo drink beer, and no can abuse him on bla girl and walk down the street. You make him Muslim together, we are contributing to a better country. As Christians, we talk lo loto los Sabbath na Sunday na me sugarim sla talk. Time Mama Eve pick him this fruit, lo garden, lo Eden. Papa God come down, I mean no go pan him Eve, not to Eve, you make him wrong finish, no God. You look him long, Genesis chapter 3, line 9, and we talk, Adam, where are you? The search was for Adam, not Eve. All pastor, now got a man, you may stop you lot too. Why God go pan him Adam, no pan him Eve? Even picking fruit. You know Adam picking fruit. Eve start him wrong. You know Adam start him wrong. But God he go upon him, Adam past them. You know what? Adam was the leader of the first government. Adam was the leader of the first family. Adam was the leader of the human race. For you, man society, you had man the tribe. You had man the team rugby player. You had man the group society, association. You want money to you had man blong. One electorate or province. Call accountability, look at the mama come you pass them than anyone else. You past time, you must look at the mama, now look at the mama inside the embrace me. Me send up there and me like out him talk, me no not tolerate him, abuse law, mama law, government blame me, or abuse law, or something come up. You make a responsibly look at him all mamas, na sisters, na girls blame me. Moral obligation blame me, or protect him all. God make him all backside, lo you me all man, now make him all finish, and talking me all man, lo look at him this lo mama. If me, one man Tari law 1997, me can walk away from an adulterous wife with no cross law him. Rest of you who are more civilized, you could do better than me. Start looking white man past time, you could do better than me. All of us together, this parliament, this time, why don't we agree and rise up? Take back PNG Mitogel, one of something. Start at the home, and it starts first. Let's protect our wives, our mothers, and our daughters amongst us. In doing this, we would secure the future of our country. May God bless all the mothers and daughters and sisters in our country. I just wish, please, for all of us to protect them. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I echo the sentiments of the Prime Minister, and I thank Governor Parkop, your committee, on this important report and the 29 recommendations. This gives a voice to the voiceless, and I support it wholeheartedly. The numbers that we hear today are alarming, and we should be ashamed of the facts. GBV is a cancer that rots away at the very foundation of what our society and Christian beliefs are based on. I told my people in the last elections, suppose you party Mary, no can vote in me. For the simple fact, I am a son of a mother. I am a brother to sisters. And most importantly, a father to daughters. Their future is in my hands. My parting message to those that continue to commit GBV. It is not too late to stop. It is now time to build on the family foundation, as the Prime Minister said, and change our mindsets for the better of our society, for the better of Papua New Guinea. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mulbaya.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I just want to add on. Thank you for Governor Pakop. You just presented your statement well. I just want to add on to what has been said. Me looking Mosem. I just want to speak Pidgin because me like a man. Sambla Saul English, Sambla in Saul English, or Papua New Guinea Lulu Sabs all Masawe. You may talk to long sorcery ma you may look long public media also sorcery amala something where come up now you may look him and one impossible something will come up me look him all man cooking man life lo fire iron stick stone all get the materials all use him long all innocent mama, even papa too. No got one la man lo this la ground sakai man. This la society mino sao longen. No stop too. One la man you got devil possess him you. You bagat this la kan ting ting. Me look all innocent mama. All put him all opayan all tane mo sem sinek na. Me look him good blood to mass. So good blood through, we will put him in the Papua New Guinea now can sour him. There's no devil, there's no man, sakaga man, this la in establish existence. Ting blow you mean no sago lotuna. You mean round no ting tasol bagrab you mean you say bagrab man. This la law all man apprehend him all man or arrest him all man, commit him all this law offense. They're supposed to be charged accordingly.
So all must meet him penalty law. Number two, minister responsible can take a note on this IT. Me looking one apps, one application in Chabinchelo phone. Me looking Papanikini, worldwide using, but Papanikini using. Long negative. All Susablo Yumi, all Mamablo Yumi, even Yumi all parliamentarian too. All using apps long, negative all man. You sat man go long Google degree next degree you must show yourself. This is a good plan. It's not healthy for a country. It's not healthy for what we are talking about now. Right now, we will talk long. Me looking long. All sambla family blow me straight. All make all this and something. All next him all na me all get a look him. Long book, newspaper, Facebook, WhatsApp, all social medias. One blood solution we must work him. Law stop him. TikTok, WhatsApp or Facebook. Sambla message him must take him. Where in a beneficiaries to mass long. Country blue him you must stop him. Before long I'm go worse. This law something you mean like stop him, law and order you mean like stop him. This is again ignite him. Now fight, trouble, killing, can happen. So me look him, this law something will work him. Man, I'm working long and please, you blast stop him now. As of now, I'm Mibla come to Parliament, Mibla talk. You man or Mary or one of them good spirit lead him to make him or you bail out or wanting something, you stop him or listen something now. I'm all sister, all brother. Mibla all get the stop, Mibla got the beginning stop. Mibla got brother, Mibla stop, Mibla got sister, Mibla stop, Mibla got papa stop, Mibla mama stop, Mibla man and mama Karim, Mibla Mary and mama Karim. You may always come to human being. This like a person, unhealthy and unethical, should condemn forthwith. Now you man practice him, no can work him. Now Mibla talk, Mibla stable player, please no can work him. And make a medicine tassel. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Labour.
Acting Speaker, today I stand here and I want to join in this debate, and I represent the girls of Papua New Guinea. Namila talk big talk, thank you go long. Chairman Blow, Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Permanent Parliamentary Committee. And I really commend him and his committee for a job well done with this report. It's a candid report, it's not sugarcoating, and it has clearly identified and described what we need to do to promote gender equality and reduce gender-based violence and empower our women and girls. I want to commend the government of our Prime Minister, Honorable James Marape, for that act of actually making this into a permanent parliamentary committee and actually shining the light on this issue. Our voices, when I was not in this parliament, out there was on the streets. Iplasa tok this law issues, GB, women empowerment, gender equality outside. But today, through this parliamentary committee and this report, we have actually brought that into the floor of this honorable house, where leaders representing all our 12 million people will debate and see this report and the recommendation then Mipla by implementing. So me talk thank you law, Mipla start him this process law, institutionalize him, how we will address gender equality, gender-based violence, as well as empower our women and girls. Mr. Acting Speaker, it is said that how a society treats its most vulnerable is the measure of humanity. And I want to thank the committee for this 40-page report. I, as a minister responsible for one of the issues that is highlighted and our chairman has mentioned on employment, will make it my business to read this report, taking the recommendations. And on that note, I want to also inform this House that this Parliament in January has ratified a convention, an international convention on violence and harassment at workplace. And last Wednesday, I deposited that instrument at the International Labour Organization. And that makes Papua New Guinea the third in the Asia-Pacific region. And according to ILO, the Asia-Pacific region starts from Iran and finishes somewhere in Hawaii, and from New Zealand up to Korea. So that's like covering 60% of the world, and Papua New Guinea became the third country in that region to ratify this violence and harassment convention for the vulnerable, especially the women at workplace. So that shows our country's commitment to addressing this. And I echo this to every one of us, the leaders here, and the people out there who are watching, who are listening on the radio, that this issue about gender-based violence, gender equality, women empowerment, they are not women's issue. Many times, issue blow women. But this is not women's issue. This is a basic human rights issue. We have every right. It is our right to live in a free, fair, and just society. We cannot be subject to violence. There shouldn't be any double standard in this country. And we are a state organization. We are a state. And it is the responsibility of the state to protect its citizens. We have a social contract as government. We have a social contract to our people, and one of that is to protect our most vulnerable. And it so happens that we women and girls in Papua New Guinea, and also the youth, we become the most vulnerable. So I want to thank the chairman for this very, very distinct and detailed report. And I must say that as a state minister, I will do my part, and likewise for everybody. And I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, Acting Speaker, for giving me the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The question is that the question be put. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I ask leave of Parliament to move a motion without notice.
Is leave granted?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move that this Parliament establishes a special parliamentary committee on customary land and land reforms in Papua New Guinea. The committee shall compose of 7 members appointed by Parliament, and the quorum of the committee shall be 3. The members of this committee shall be the Honourable Keith Iruhu as the chairman, the Honourable Eraman Tabining Jr., the Honourable Y. Rapa, the Honourable Simon Dumarino, the Honourable Lohia Bay Samuel, the Honourable Anderson Mize, and the Honourable Ricky Morris. The primary objective of the committee is to conduct a comprehensive review and assessment of the existing land tenure system in Papua New Guinea and identify challenges, propose reforms, recommend strategies to enhance the formalization and the effectiveness of land tenure ownership and use. The committee shall focus on the following key areas. Firstly, conduct a thorough review of the current land tenure system in Papua New Guinea, including customary, state and freehold land arrangements. Analyze the legal and institutional frameworks governing land tenure to identify strengths, weaknesses, gaps, and inconsistencies, and to engage with relevant stakeholders, including government agencies, customary landowners, community groups, non-government organizations, and experts to gather diverse perspectives and insights on land formalization. It's also to conduct public consultants and gather feedback from the general population to ensure a comprehensive understanding of the issues and concerns related to land tenure. It's also to identify challenges and bottlenecks hindering effective use of customary land, equitable land distribution, and sustainable land use, and explore opportunities and best practices from other jurisdictions that can be adapted to improve the land tenure system in Papua New Guinea. It's also to propose policy and legislative reforms to enhance customary land, ensuring alignment with international standards, cultural practices, and sustainable development goals. Furthermore, to develop recommendations to streamline land registration process, improve land titling mechanism, ensure security of tenure for landowners. It's also to suggest high-capacity building initiatives for government agencies, land administrators, and landowners to enhance their understanding and implementation of the reformed land formalization policies. It's also to develop strategies to increase public awareness and understanding of the reformed land tenure system to foster community participation and compliance. The committee will produce the following deliverables. Firstly, a comprehensive report summarizing the findings, recommendations, and proposed reforms related to customary land in Papua New Guinea. Draft legislation or amendments to existing legislation that align with the recommendations and reforms proposed by the committee. Awareness and advocacy materials to disseminate information about the proposed reforms and enhance public understanding of the land tenure system. The committee shall complete its work and to submit a final report with recommendations and deliverables at a determined date as deemed appropriate by the committee at its first meeting. The committee will report to the Speaker of the Parliament or his deputy, the clerk or such persons allowed to represent the Speaker, and provide regular updates to the Parliament on the progress of its work. The Speaker or its representative will oversee the committee's functioning and ensure adherence to the specified terms of reference. The committee will receive administrative, logistical, and research support for the Parliament's Secretariat and may seek technical assistance from relevant government departments and international organizations, subject to the approval by the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker. These terms of reference shall be subject to periodic review and amendments to be made deemed necessary by the Parliament. Any amendments to these terms of reference require approval of the majority of the committee members and the Speaker of the Parliament. Members of the committee shall maintain confidentiality regarding sensitive information and discussions held during the duration of the inquiry.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Order of government business.
Deputy Speaker, we move a motion to adjourn Parliament till tomorrow at 10 a.m.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Honourable members, I now adjourn Parliament to tomorrow 10 o'clock a.m.